everyone. Welcome to another Animation Friday. I apologize, this video had to be delayed. Unfortunately, I was pretty busy this past weekend and the latter portion of the week of last week, but it should be caught up by the end of today as of Monday. So without further ado, let me address what I wanted to talk about for this particular Animation Friday, which was sort of giving you a sort of overview as to my thoughts as to what's sort of coming next within animation. Because there's actually some interesting things that various animated studios are trying to do as far as movies are concerned. And I thought it would be cool to kind of dive into what exactly their kind of direction is going forward. Starting off with Disney. It seems like Disney is sticking to their roots but also expanding upon their brand. So we have, for example, a sort of more fairy tale oriented story that's supposed to be coming out. I believe it is either this year or the following year. I can't exactly remember, but I believe it is titled Moana, which is supposed to be like, I believe, some kind of Hawaiian related story that's kind of folklorish in nature. In other words, it's kind of like a sort of exotic fairy tale because it sort of involves, magic and I believe there may be some, I'm not exactly sure, but it seems like there might be some religious undertones as far as ancient legends are concerned. But it is definitely tapping into that traditional kind of Disney-esque story aspect that they like to really dive into, which I think ultimately really works. I think it's very interesting that we're getting a story that's not really necessarily European related, because a lot of Disney fairy tales have revolved around the European style of these kinds of folklorish fairy tale stories. So I think that's an interesting change. But beyond that, I think it also lends itself into sort of a whole new kind of, scenery and new characters and such. So it'll be an interesting move. I really want Disney to succeed at this. I really do not hope, and I'm praying that they don't go along the direction of Brave, where they insert the cliches and they make the characters, the main character, super full of herself and arrogant. I just hope that they don't go down that route. And I really hope that they don't go down the route of Frozen either, where, not only do you have a weak villain, but you also have got, things added in there that don't amount much to anything, and, you get this kind of very kind of more generic songs. I'm really hoping Disney can pick up the slack in that department and really try to hammer home some really interesting material as far as songs are concerned, and they have a unique culture that they can really dive into and really get the hang of. This is really something that Disney can really try to bring forth and bring this kind of out of the box creativity that I think a lot of people want. And I think that's really the thing that I really would like to see from Disney. And it sounds like it's going to be an adventure story, which is great. And I think it'll be nice to see what they do with this, because I think it has a lot of potential and it actually sounds very interesting, and it doesn't sound clichéic, and it doesn't sound like it's trying to hone in on a certain message or trying to push forward any specific kinds of ways of thinking as so much as this is just trying to tell a story. And that's what I hope that Disney sticks to, because that's what they're ultimately, I think, really good at, in taking these kinds of stories that are based within some kind of either mythology or fairy tale folklore type uh, genres, and putting their own interesting spin on it. And it would be nice to see it done here and done really effectively. And I think they have the potential to do it. And I really hope that it is better than Brave and Frozen. That's all I'm asking for. Even though Brave is Pixar, again, a lot of what Pixar utilized within that film was really related into the Disney princess films and was fairly cliche. So that's why I kind of consider it as more of a Disney film, and because they, for some reason, like to feature Merida as part of the Disney princess lineup, even though she's a Pixar princess. I don't know. So it would be nice to see what they do here. I think it has a lot of potential because it's unique, it's interesting. There's a whole new scenery, a whole new look into something that's really not that much explored. I just hope that they can pull off something really good and actually really interesting and unique. And I think they can pull it off here. I think they really have a good chance of doing it. I just hope that they don't mess it up like they've been doing with some of their past works. At least that's just my opinion. And they also seem to be expanding upon another department of trying to make things a little bit more, I want to say it's designed to be more general in the sense that they're trying to utilize a lot of different things as far as their brand is concerned. And again, instead of just doing the princess film, they also have these other creative works that they're trying to put out there. The unfortunate thing is I don't think Disney is all too good at that. I think it still remains to be seen. For example, I think their latest film is supposed to be Zootopia. And I think they literally gave the best kind of joke away within one of their trailers. And you may or may not have seen it, but it basically involves these anthropomorphic life forms, in other words, animals with humanistic features, like they'll be wearing clothing that's for humans, and they'll be having various positions within society that are human oriented. So it's kind of like a human world, but it's just all animals. And they have have this whole trailer where it's based on one scene of two animal characters walking into a DMV, and all of the DMV employees are sloths, which is hilarious and really does work. But I think what's unfortunate about what I think this film is eventually going to turn out being is that it's going to have maybe some clever jokes in it, but is it going to really have a very compelling and interesting story? And are we going to get really cool characters? And are we really going to remember anything about Zootopia? I don't think so, unfortunately. So I think that's really the thing that puts me a little bit on edge of Disney really experimenting. Is that I don't think they're as good at this kind of material. And again, they do have brilliant moments. Again, like with the scene of the sloths being all working at the DMV. But the thing is that's probably going to be the funniest part of the film. And when you're giving something that funny sort of away, it kind of, I think, discourages people from really seeing the film, because they're like, okay, how are you going to really top that joke? Because the joke works and it's funny, but really, what's the story here? I mean, you really don't get a sense of what's really supposed to be going on. Whereas with Moana, even if they haven't really launched a trailer about it, the way that they describe like what the movie's sort of supposed to be about, what it's supposed to be kind of based on, you could tell that it's okay. This is what the story is. With Zootopia, you have no idea what the focus really is, and even if the focus is really all that interesting or that funny, it just comes off as not as organic or interesting. So I think that's the part of Disney that I think still needs a lot of working to do. They really need to kind of figure out how they want to differentiate themselves and try to put interesting material out there that's, again, not so traditionally Disney. And I think they still need some time to do it, but I think they eventually over time they'll find their footing. But it's definitely going to take more than just one film to do that. And from what I've seen, obviously with films like Big Hero 6, as well as this new movie, this Zootopia movie that's supposed to be coming out, they still, I don't think, have found their ground, their footing in that arena. I still think that they need to do a lot of work to really hone in their brand well. But who knows? Maybe it'll do really well with the kids because kids love animals that can do human things. But that's really Disney. They're really trying. They're trying to get themselves out there, and they really are trying to put in their footing. And I think so far they've done a decent job. Obviously, there are films that they've done that I've not really particularly cared for, but I think there is an attempt of them really trying. Obviously, Wreck-It Ralph was the good alternative of film so far that they did, I think. But I still think they're still trying to find that footing for them, and I think if they just again go back to what made Wreck-It Ralph actually stand out, then they'll have a better understanding of how they can, have this alternative brand while also having the more traditional Disney brand mixed in with that. Because I think that would be interesting, and I think that would really actually work really well. And I like the fact that at least with this Disney princess film, they're actually doing the person's name. Moana. Okay, it's her name. At least we're doing that instead of some really stupid title. That's all I gotta say though. That's pretty much what Disney is at least starting to do. Now, Pixar. Pixar is very interesting because um, although they sort of are supposed to be doing well because they got a lot of critical praise for that Inside Out movie that I have yet to see, um, they still seem to be kind of iffy on some of their other works. I heard that The Good Dinosaur didn't receive that much critical acclaim. And it seems like a lot of the films that they're going to eventually be starting to roll out are sequels. Like, for example, Finding Dory. And again, this could actually be a very clever sequel, or it could just be the character Dory, aka Ellen DeGeneres, excuse me, just making a ton of jokes. And then maybe have some kind of wacky plot but nothing special. And that's what I worry about this particular film. I don't think it's going to be as compelling as the first film because Dory is designed to be a comic relief character. She's not really designed to take the center stage. She's just supposed to be part of the story to move it along. And I feel like a film focusing on her would not have a huge amount of focus or a huge amount of interesting things really going on or have a really cool creative plot to it because it's kind of like giving a side character a major film. But again, although she is supposedly a funny side character, I mean, I don't think she really is all that funny or really all that um, interesting of a side character. I actually found her a little bit annoying. Again, I think there is some potential with it, but I'm kind of discouraged only because, again, she's designed to be very comedy oriented, and she's primarily designed to be a side character. And I think a film primarily focusing on her would have a difficult time staying in focus because even herself as a character, she's kind of out of it. You know, she doesn't really have, um, really a set goal. There's not really something that Dory is really trying to accomplish. I mean, I don't really know what they want to do with it, but I mean, I really want to really suspend judgment only because obviously I haven't seen this film because this film is not even out yet. But at the same time, I hold a certain amount of skepticism only because again, they're focusing on a side character, and it's a side character that's mainly focused on trying to be comic relief, and she doesn't really have a whole lot of focus with her personality. And I don't really know how much of a compelling plot they're going to give her, um, and how they're going to develop her character really. So it'll be interesting to see if it pulls its own weight. But again, I have that certain amount of skepticism. Also, they're trying to do Cars 3, which I have no idea why they are trying to do Cars 3. There's no need and necessity for Cars 3. Already Cars 2 was plenty. But I think the little boys love cars. And when you got that market that enjoys the cars, you know, that's why they're still sticking to it. I believe they're also trying to go for an Incredibles 2, which I think was really the sequel that they should have pushed for. Really, I think the only sequel they should really push for because again, you have all these dynamic characters within the Incredibles, and there's really something that you can expand upon because it's a whole family of superheroes. Um, and I think it's something that you can really expand upon, um, and something you can really generate a good story from. And again, I think this is really the sequel with the most potential. All the other sequels, obviously Cars 3 is bad idea. Dory is still iffy, but this one I feel there is a certain understanding okay, I could understand why they would want to make a sequel about this, because it does have some potential. And The Incredibles, in particular, that one film was rather successful, one of Pixar's more famous. So I can understand why they would attempt to try to make a sequel out of this. I almost feel it's a little bit too much delayed, only because The Incredibles came out already such a long time ago. And the fact that you're just rolling it out now, I mean, our kids that were even growing up with The Incredibles going to go even see this movie after it's been however many years, you know? Is there going to be a really genuine market for the film? That's something I think that still remains to be seen. So, it'd be nice to see it made and see if it works. But it seems like, for the most part, Pixar is in Sequelville. They are trying to roll out the sequels, which I wouldn't mind if it was. And I know they're trying to do maybe some originality with their material, but when you're doing that many already, I just think that it could be doing a more standalone projects would be better than trying to hammer in the same stuff that we've seen already. I think having every now and again a sequel and then doing more original works would work to, I think, Pixar's advantage a whole lot better and to their brand a whole lot better, because Pixar was sort of known as being the original thinkers, at least of the earlier 2000s, and around the time when Disney was having a slump, sort of, with their 2D animated works. So it would be nice to see, you know, Pixar kind of trying to think outside the box more. But I think they're kind of in a state of having to redefine themselves, and while at the same time, you know, kind of reinforce their other films, which I understand if there's there can be something done with it, which I think you can do with The Incredibles. But as far as these other films that they're trying to push, you know, as sequels, I just don't see that much potential with them. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of where Pixar's at, and then we've got DreamWorks, and DreamWorks is pretty much being DreamWorks. Except they are, I think, going for a little bit more of the Pixar angle of doing sequels. You know, we had a Kung Fu Panda 3. It's like, why do we need more and more of the same characters and the same, you know, setup and whatnot? You know, I don't understand why we need this. They want to do a How to Train Your Dragon 3. You know, they really are pushing it, and they want to do a Croods 2. So they are still in that kind of stage where, you know, they're sort of rolling out things that have already been explored extensively. Again, similar with what Pixar is doing, and I don't know if it's really going to work all too well. I mean, it's not that I don't like sequels or extending upon animation as far as, you know, a storyline is concerned, or if it involves certain characters. Like, I don't think you can you that you can't get away with it and do it effectively. The problem is when you're doing it so often and you're doing it so extensively, and you know, you're just pushing it out there because it's the more popular of your works. And this can be clearly seen with Pixar as well as with DreamWorks too. They kind of seem like they're both in that kind of stage of where they may be doing some original stuff, but it's getting kind of overshadowed with a lot of what they are pushing forward, which is their sequels. And I think they need to do some reevaluating of what they want to do, really, like Pixar, and kind of find their originality and, you know, kind of reset their brands, so to speak. So yeah, out of all of these three, I think Disney is actually the one that's kind of at least pushing out the idea of trying to stay away from sequels. I know there was a rumor of doing a Frozen 2. I don't know if that's still on the table. If it is, I think it's a pretty stupid move by Disney, but we'll see. That I think still remains to be discovered. But I think what they are focusing on, at least what they have been pushing more forward, at least as far as my understanding, is the Moana film, as well as, you know, doing this other side portion of their brand where they're sticking away from things that are not necessarily fairy tale or folklore related. And we'll see if that can bring them something. But I think that's really all I can say about this topic. It's very interesting. I mean, I think it's just so fascinating to see how all of these particular brands of entertainment have changed for kids in such a short period of time. I mean, Pixar was at their game in like the early 2000s of doing these very kind of interesting and original works, and now they're kind of in a slump, I think, a little bit, and so is DreamWorks. And Disney is sort of trying to come back, and they came back pretty solidly. Um, Even though, again, I still have some problems with with some of their newer material. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately though all I can say. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video.